American economy is at stake as Congress fights its way toward yet another fiscal deadline, another fiscal crisis. On Friday, the GOP-controlled House passed a bill to fund the government for the rest of the year, but that very bill denies funding for Obamacare. There is no support for that in the Senate at this point, which is controlled by the Democrats. Bottom line, if there's no agreement between the Senate and the House by the end of the month, the federal government could shut down. In the meantime, the battle lines are drawn.
The American people don't want the government shut down, and they don't want Obamacare.
They're not focused on you. They're focused on politics. They're focused on trying to mess with me.
Joining me now from Utah, Republican Senator Mike Lee, from Minnesota, Democratic Senator Amy Klobuchar, and here with me in studio, California Congresswoman Democrat Barbara Lee, and Republican Congresswoman from Tennessee, Marsha Blackburn. Welcome to all of you. There is a filibuster in the Senate, thankfully not on Meet the Press. So we're going to keep this debate moving. But I want to start with a question for all of you, which is really a yes or no question. Senator Lee, is the government going to shut down?
No. We all know that the government is going to be funded. The question is whether it will be funded with Obamacare or without. All right.
Senator Klobuchar, you think there'll be a shutdown?
No, because I believe in the end people of goodwill will come together and do the right thing and stop this political brinkmanship.
To the Congresswoman here, Barbara Lee, what do you say?
No, and we're not going to allow the defunding of the Affordable Care Act.
No, as much as the president wants to shut down, he's not going to get it.
All right, so who wants it, who doesn't want it, is it going to be shut down? But you all think somehow this is going to be avoided. Look, the question for you, Senator Lee, as one of the, if I may, the firebrands in the Senate, conservatives who are fighting to defund Obamacare, you have gotten what you wanted. You wanted to have this fight. They've had it in the House. It's now coming your way in the Senate. But I don't have to tell you, Republicans are arguing with each other about whether this is the right thing. You have members of Congress who think you have overpromised to the base. Your own colleagues that I've spoken to believe that. Karl Rove wrote this, former Bush advisor in the Wall Street Journal on Thursday: the desire to strike at Obamacare is praiseworthy, but any strategy to repeal, delay, or replace the law must have a credible chance of succeeding or affecting broad public opinion positively. The defunding strategy doesn't. Going down that road would strengthen the president while alienating independents. It's an ill-conceived tactic, and Republicans should reject it. What do you say to that, Senator Lee?
Well, ever since we started talking about the defund Obamacare effort back in July, people within the Washington establishment in both political parties have been attacking it. Right off the top, they said it can't be done. Some of them even said legally, it is not physically or legally possible to pass a bill that funds government but defunds Obamacare. Meanwhile, we've seen that all those things are untrue. We've seen that the American people are rallying around this idea. They have seen the president acting to protect big business, big unions, and other special interests, and they want to be protected too.
But Senator,
so
you don't have, you don't have support in the Senate. Public opinion is running against Obamacare. That's a fact. You also don't have support in the Senate to defund Obamacare, do you?
Well, look, here's the issue. We have to ask the question, how many more people will have to lose their jobs or have their wages cut or lose their health care benefits before Congress acts, before Congress does something to protect the American people? How many more states will have to announce that premiums are going up? You know, this week we saw Home Depot announcing that 20,000 employees will lose their health care benefits. The House boldly acted this week, and I commend Speaker Boehner for his leadership on this.
But I asked a direct question.
Now it's
do you have support in the Senate to defund Obamacare, or don't you?
We have support in the Senate. We have all 45 Republicans in the Senate in March voted to defund Obamacare. We will keep those and add a 46th, Jeff Chiesa from New Jersey. I hope that a few Senate Democrats, particularly those from red states who are up for re-election this year, will consider joining us, because this is what the American people
Let me get everybody to sound off. Here's my question for the group, and I'll come to you, Congresswoman Blackburn, first. You remember in the 90s, the shutdown, 95,
sure.
95 into 96. The prevailing view is it hurt Republicans. Look at the bare fact. You had $1.4 billion in dollars in the cost of the government. The images of closed parks and furloughed workers and parts of the government shutdown was seen as a net negative for Republicans. Why would you want to go through that again?
We're not trying to go through it. We know the president wants it because he wants control of the checkbook. for discretionary spending. Republicans are committing to solving the problem of all of this spending in Washington, D.C. I mean, look at what has happened with spending since this president took office. Look at what is happening with jobs, with the economy. Look at what is happening with Obamacare and the impact that $2.6 trillion of additional expense is going to have on federal spending. We want to solve the problem. We'd love to have the president meet with us instead of going to meet with Putin.
Senator Klobuchar, your thoughts on this?
Well, first of all, David, I think our economy is on the cusp of great opportunity here. The unemployment rate in my state is down to 5.1%. The real estate market is turning around, and you're seeing improvements across the country, but we're not where we're supposed to be. And the last thing that the American people want right now is people playing political games, putting in poison pills, and threatening to shut the government down or default on our debt. And that's what I think we should be doing, is moving forward on the immigration bill, which reduces our debt by $160 billion in 10 years. If you want to talk about debt reduction, there's a good one right there. Moving forward on the farm bill and looking at these opportunities to help Americans get jobs. And this brinkmanship and going to the end every single time, like we saw in 2011 when the Dow cascaded down 20 points, is not the way to go.
Barbara Lee, Congresswoman, do you agree with your colleague here? Do you think the president really wants to push for the shutdown, to try to win back the House and get more of his agenda through after the midterms?
The president does not want a government shutdown. First of all, the president, when the president took office, we were losing 800,000 jobs per month. The president has turned the economy around. Yes, we have a long way to go, but we are creating jobs. This administration is doing that. With regard to the Affordable Care Act, for the life of me, I can't understand why in the world the Affordable Care Act would be held hostage to our government shutting down. Millions of people have already benefited from this. We have children who now receive health care who could not receive health care prior to this because of pre-existing conditions. We have millions of young people who are still on their parents' health insurance plans who would not be on those plans. We have over 100 million people now who will not be jammed out of their insurance because of the fact that they exhaust their benefits. And so people right now are benefiting from the Affordable Care Act. I don't believe the people, they're not being hurt by this.
Yes, they are. Look at the millions of individuals. 7 million more individuals will lose employer-provided insurance, and that's according to the CBO, because of Obamacare. Look at the thousands. We've got over 300 companies that have altered, changed, or reduced health benefits because of Obamacare. And that is hundreds of thousands of uninsured lives. We have 21.3 million Americans who are either or underemployed.
Health care costs are going down. They're going down.
No, they're not. They are escalating.
All right, let me inject a point of fact here. There is a lot of confusion, and we've done some checking on this as well. Even the issue of premiums, they have gone up in some states. They're coming down in other states if they have exchanges. I mean, you know full well. It depends on who the governor is. If you're a governor of Florida, you're inimical to the Affordable Care Act. You're going to make it more difficult. The feds have to come in and do it. In New York, Democratic governor, they're having an easier time of it. So it really does matter where you are. But there is confusion, Senator Lee, to your point and to your opposition. Here are some of the headlines this week. A couple pro, a couple con here. Reuters, Cleveland Clinic announces job cuts to prepare for Obamacare. Bloomberg, GE, IBM ending retiree health plans in an historic shift. USA Today, health care for $100 a month? Yes, really, that is possible. The South Florida Sun Sentinel, Obamacare cuts costs. So there is vulnerability because it is unpopular, but there is not a fact pattern that you can say is a singular fact pattern in terms of the impact of Obamacare yet.
Well, that may well be the case, but the fact is this law is creating enormous uncertainty that has Americans on edge, that has Americans understanding that they could lose their jobs, they could have their wages or their hours cut, and they could lose their health care benefits, and that's happening to a lot of people. And we have to remember, the body that has acted now to prevent a shutdown, to fund government, is the House of Representatives. The House of Representatives has said, let's fund government and not Obamacare. That's what the American people want. Almost 1.6 million people have gone to don'tfundit.com just in the last few weeks to register their concern about this law. The American people are calling for this, and the House has acted. The Senate now needs to do its job and follow suit.
But Senator Lee, you haven't answered. I mean, you're campaigning for this, which I understand. That's your prerogative. you don't really have the support. And what I'm wondering is why focus on this issue to the exclusion of, say, tax reform? I know you've actually proposed something on that, but as focus so narrowly on Obamacare, which your own colleagues are saying publicly and privately is not going to be dismantled. Even Rand Paul, while he supports defunding, says in the end it's not going to be repealed.
Well, look, that's shifting, too. As recently as a week or two ago, people were saying the House of Representatives would not pass something that funded government while defunding Obamacare. That turned out not to be true. Weeks before that, people were saying it wasn't even legally possible to defund Obamacare through a continuing resolution. And now the House of Representatives has passed something that does exactly that.
All right, Senator
the American
Klobuchar,
people are with us.
David,
they're calling for this.
Well, what I can tell you is 58% of independents have said that they don't want to defund Obamacare if it means shutting down the government. That is a poll from Karl Rove. The people I were with yesterday, the 5,000 people that were there to march to cure Alzheimer's, you want to tell them that their loved ones who have Alzheimer's are going to be delayed in getting a cure or treatment because the government's going to shut down? It makes no sense. And I come from a state that is a high-quality, low-cost health care state. And we want to see those kinds of reforms that we see at the Mayo Clinic go across the country. We do not want to relitigate the battles of Obamacare again. The House and Senate passed it. The president signed it into law.
So
the court upheld it. And will there be changes in the future? Yes. But the answer is not to defund it on a bill
here's what the House
down.
is poised to do next, as you both know, which is to now get to the debt limit. So this is what we're talking about now is funding the government. If you don't do it by the end of the month, possible shutdown. That's a separate matter from raising the debt limit, which you have to do to pay the bills for the appropriations that Congress has made. The House, I'm told, wants to pass a bill that would delay Obamacare by a year and make that part of an agreement to raise the debt limit. Congresswoman, the president says he's not negotiate with Congress over the debt limit. Do you think in the end he's going to have to? There's not support for raising the debt limit right now, is there?
First of all, we must pay our bills. We're not a deadbeat nation. This should not be held as a bargaining chip. It should not be held hostage. We've raised the debt limit over 40 times now.
Yeah, but do you have the votes to raise it right now? I mean, that's the question, without doing something.
Well, the president has not said he would not do something with regard to the budget. He is not going to negotiate on something that should not have to be negotiated about, and that's raising the debt ceiling. We've got to pay our bills.
In the past, and here's a list of all the times that Congress has worked with the commander-in-chief to raise the debt limit and institute some serious budget reforms.
Right.
But that was not held as a bargaining chip.
It's my legislation that would delay it for 1 year. And one of the things we want to make certain we do is prohibit all the taxes. Senator Klobuchar's state with all of the medical devices, that's a 2.3% tax.
But in these instances, they were not held hostage. It was not a bargaining chip. This had nothing to do with raising the debt ceiling.
We're talking about making certain that we get the spending
the disagreement continues. One last question. Senator Klobuchar, bottom line. Will there be an agreement on raising the debt limit despite the fact that the president would not like to negotiate about it?
I believe that there will be an agreement, and I think we can do it without any of these extraneous partisan poison pills, because the American people remember what happened back in 2011. We had our credit rating reduced, and it cost us $1.3 billion in extra borrowing costs. This is money taxpayers have to pay. This is affecting families and real people, and that's why I think in the end this gamemanship has to end, and we have to get on the real business of the American people, and that's why I think in the end we will move on and negotiate a real long-term budget that's balanced.
All right, this debate is just getting started. You're getting a sense of that here this morning. Senators Klobuchar and Lee, thank you.